Simon, thank you. Brian, that was a pleasure listening to that. Thanks for the introduction. They actually got my nameplate slightly wrong this morning, but I heard far worse on the Radio 4 programme yesterday, so certainly my introduction was a lot better than that. I've got a PowerPoint presentation, but no clicker. I've got it. Copies of the slides are available. I'm going to take us through a bit of a whistle-stop, ladies and gentlemen, for hopefully less than 20 minutes, so it warms you up for some questions at the panel. That's what I'm going to cover. What's the role of the HMIC? Who am I? What's this fairly useless quango representative stood in front of you? The changing landscape and some of the findings of Majesty's Inspectorate, but probably more importantly, what we're all interested in, what the public think of these issues. So my aim in less than 20 minutes is to talk about the financial and governance issues, particularly coming from the bill that was put before Parliament last week, and the issues that we found in HMIC with our work. What is Majesty's Inspectorate of Constabulary? A police watchdog is probably the easiest way of putting it. The public interest is in bold, you see. That's the primary one. That includes us. It includes me and my family and the rest of us. And people are really, really interested in policing because it has a direct effect on them. Heavily focused on cash. As Simon said earlier, let's tell it as it is. There is a financial imperative to all of this, and there are some changes from the bill to the Inspectorate, as Brian said, some good and bad. The bit I'm not quite sure about, because a lot of it lacks definition still, is what light touch and shining a light might mean in some of these areas. If I knew, I would tell you. Forgive me, I know most of you will know this, but having read the literature before I came here, I know there is a mixed audience, and some of you may not know too much about what the police service looks like. There are the facts and figures. They are out of date. The numbers of police officers, police staff and PCSOs will have fallen, and probably will have fallen in the time between I arrived here and stood on the stage. What I should say is we have the best police service in the world, and I do say that as an independent police regulator. Why should I say that? Well, if anything serious happens around the world in policing terms or community safety, where do other countries, including the United States of America, tend to ring? It tends to be this country. The Shadow Minister and Brian touched upon quite rightly, as did Simon in his opening, that crime has fallen fundamentally, antisocial behaviours plummeted in lots of areas. Police authorities do have a track record of delivering efficiency savings. I'll talk a little bit more about that. So if you were saying, is this broken, there are some questions. But that is not to suggest for a moment, please, that the police service, and in fact all organisations, shouldn't strive to do better. 80% of the money is spent on people. Some of the context, this will be used against police governance, actually, not only by coalition government, but by others. Mergers were announced in 2005. Brian told us what happened to the Secretary of State of the day on that one, but they were seen off. Collaboration, the Minister of the day said to police authorities, chairs like Brian and chief constables like me at the time, mergers are off. You get on and collaborate. Sweeping generalisation coming up because time does constrain me a little, but collaboration from 2006 to the end of 2010, I would suggest has not been covered in glory. I accept there are some shining lights of collaboration out there, but not too many. The prospect of merging motorway units or horse sections, etc., is not exactly splitting the atom in the public's eyes of what they expect from collaboration. In September 2008, Northern Rock had one of the most unusual announcements. We've run out of money, Lehman Brothers and all the rest of it, so there is a timescale issue for all of this, and questions are asked, sometimes not fairly, around the timescales involved of the pace of change in this bit of the public sector. There are the announcement on cuts. The white paper, which still exists from the previous administration, had identified around £1 billion worth of cuts and reshaping the business. The bottom line about the private sector is not there as a threat, Private sector, quite properly, have always been looking at police business, how it can work with the police service. That's taken on greater focus since the general election on how much, if any, additional police business should be outsourced to the private sector. Big discussions going on around that. A changing landscape, we know about the coalition government. The consultation paper, I don't agree with the title of the consultation paper. I don't believe the public are that disconnected with the police wherever I've worked, and in this role I see lots of connections between the public and the police, including police authorities. Police and crime commissioners, I agree with every word said by the previous two speakers, but we do operate in a democracy. Some of the detail came out in the bill. Still a mixed bag, but we'll wait for further detail on what happens there. Demise of the Audit Commission, National Police Improvement Agency, goes in 2012, and again detail missing, likewise with the National Crime Agency. Review of conditions and service, which I know Simon and his colleagues and others will be well cited on the outcomes of that report, which will be due quite quickly. Post-CSR. 20% cuts. That's top line. Front-loaded in years 1 and 2, which we've heard about, but there are some assumptions within that, of course, that there will be precept rises from year 2 onwards. Well, that's Mystic Meg type territory for all of us. Capital budgets, by the way, are cut by 50% from April, then flatline thereafter. Forces and authorities are starting from very different places. For some, it is extremely hard. For others, it's a lot harder than that. PCSOs, light, police community support officers, forgive the acronym, I've been around the police too long, ring-fenced in year 1. Who knows what happens thereafter. Police forces and authorities will be notified of their individual settlements some stage in December. The plan was to announce it on the 3rd of December, but there are issues around, I think school sports funding played a role in it, but that may be good news. People may be reconsidering, and I say may, I don't have any inside intelligence, but as I stand here today, the proposed date, I believe, is the 13th of December, but there are some caveats attached to that for when the settlement will be announced. The bottom line here for me is the key one, the bottom bullet point. The citizens' expectations from policing, just to remind us that does include all of us, will not diminish, nor should it. I expect the police to keep me, my family, my friends, my neighbourhood safe. That's what the police actually want to do. When I talk about the police, I don't just mean police officers. I'm talking about the police and the partnership with the communities to give us that level of protection. And Vernon Coker was right, in my view, is right today as he was when he was the minister, that it is those local quality of life issues that affect all of us, that must be protected within all of this. It's what the public talk to me about. I'm sure it's what they talk to you about around, they don't use the term antisocial behaviour, but what affects me in my local neighbourhood. The public will not expect a service that doesn't answer the phone, that people don't turn up, and they must be protected. That's part of my role within that. So what I'll be looking for as an inspector is the plans that the authorities will be drawing up. How is the citizen protected within that? What the public say. These aren't my words, by the way. These are people like Ipsos Mori and the rest have carried out survey work to say, what does this mean to the public? Because fundamentally, this is what it's about. It's not an internal cost reduction exercise or restructuring. What do they want? They want the police to be effective. They want crime down, they want antisocial behaviour down, and they want criminals, or those that break the law, dealt with. They're their words. I could have made them up, but I didn't. If I'd have made them up, I'd have said similar things, and that's about right. The issue I'm concerned about is, are the public getting a good deal? But I'll not be on my own in this. I guess everyone in the room would vote for being sure that your money, the £13.7 billion that is currently spent on policing, is being spent properly.